Hey class, today we are going to be taking our color wheel photos that we took yesterday during class or after school and should already have uploaded to your computer, and we are going to then put them into one big final collage where all 12 of your color images are put together. Now for those of y'all that did not get every single color, but maybe you took some extras of an object, like you couldn't find yellow orange, but you found two pictures of something yellow, we'll also talk about how we can color correct those. But just be warned that for this particular lesson, we are going to be working in a ton of different layers. But let's go ahead and let's dive into Pixlr to start off for today. And we are, as usual, going to be working with Pixlr E. Now, usually, we start off an assignment by going to Open Image. But we are going to be drawing something different today, where we are actually going to create our own blank file that we are going to manipulate, edit, and turn the photos in. So instead of clicking Open Image here, we are going to instead go to Create New. And from there, you have a lot of preset different file sizes. And the numbers that you see here, just like you see online with photographs, when you try and save them, represent pixels. But for this assignment, we are going to want to use the highest quality one that is in a square format that says Square UHD, standing for Ultra High Definition. And you can see that this particular file size that we're going to create is about 2000 by 2000 pixels wide. So we're going to want to select the Square UHD file size. You can always customize your own file sizes here, but for our purposes for this assignment, this is going to be plenty big for us to download and of course eventually upload back into Google Classroom. So we have it selected, it's highlighted blue, and now we're just going to come over here to create. And as you can see, we have a nice big square file that is roughly over 2000 pixels wide, 2000 pixels tall. You can't see any pixels because we don't have any pixels inserted yet. No matter how much you zoom in, this black and gray checker always represents no pixels. So let's fix that, because I don't think we want to have a nice blank background. Let's start off with something clean with a nice white background. So make sure that whatever circle you have here is selected as white. If it's black and white, you can always hit this little arrow here to swap back and forth. Or if you just want to double click, you can always select whatever color it is you want to add here. But in this case, we're going to keep things nice and clean and white for today. And then we're going to use that white color, making sure it's on top, not the one underneath. We're going to use our paint bucket or our fill tool, and we're just going to click once real quick to fill in our first layer, the original image that we opened, as a nice white blank background. Now, I'm also going to do something a little interesting here that we're going to get rid of eventually. And instead of applying it directly to this layer, we're actually going to create a new blank layer by coming over here to a plus sign and coming over here to empty. This step isn't entirely necessary, but I found that when creating this particular image that we're going to, since we're focusing on a circle, we're going to want to create a nice circle here in the photograph, centered in this image, that we will be able to kind of place our images and kind of use as a guide. We'll eventually get rid of it at the end, but for now, we want to make sure that we are creating a circle guide that will be useful. Now, we've never used these tools before, but a couple things that are useful to know is that you have different shapes that you can create, and then we can choose either to add a fill or not. We're going to want to keep the fill off, but we are going to want to keep the stroke, how wide the line is. Now, when you try and create a shape, no matter which one it is, you're going to have to make sure you have the correct color selected. Now, it could be this green color if I really wanted to, but most of us will probably have that color already selected to black. But it doesn't really matter, since we're going to be adding this in a brand new layer, and we're going to end up deleting this later. But what I want you to do is select the circle tool, and then hold down the shift key, and you're going to draw a circle. The reason why I'm holding down the shift key is if I let go of it, I'm able to make this into an oval, but if I hold down the Shift key, it only lets me create a circle. So we're going to make a circle. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered, but I can come up here and use the Arrange tool to try and get it as close to the center as possible. Those little nice purple lines are very useful for lining things up perfectly. And that will be a good guide for us to create our images. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. So for us to put our 12 different colored images around the outside of this photograph. All right, now comes the busy work. We are going to be adding one picture at a time, having to scale it down to a proper size, and then crop it to a circle that we're going to put 12 circles for all 12 colors of the color wheel all the way around this image. So we're going to come over here to plus and the layers palette. We're going to select image. And depending on where you have your photos saved, you're going to want to find them. If you use the technique that I talked about yesterday, it should be in its own new dated file like I had right here. Or if you're someone that uses the computer to take your pictures, they should be in your camera roll or possibly in a dated folder. But find the photos that you uploaded yesterday, and we're going to start off with any color that you want. It doesn't matter which one you want to put at the top, but I'm going to start off with my yellow disc. I'm going to open it, and as you can see, this picture is huge. I did the highest quality on my phone when I was taking these pictures, but even for a 2000 by 2000 size file, this picture is still much bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and scale this down to a much smaller size and then arrange it up here at the top of the photograph. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll be able to move things around here later, but you want to kind of get it into place of where you want to eyeball that photo for now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop out most of this picture and just focus on the yellow Frisbee disc that I have here. So I'm going to do that by going to my, my marquee select tool that we talked about at the beginning of the year. But instead of doing a square shape, we are going to then use a circle shape to make a circle selection of this disc. Now this is a little tricky because when I draw this, it tends to shift and move around a little bit. But really what I want to do is I want to hold down the Shift key and I want to create an image that is mostly of the yellow. It's okay if there's less, but make sure it's not hanging off the edge of the photo like you see I'm doing here. Make sure the entire photo is in, the entire selection is in the picture. I will go ahead and let go. And basically what I want to do is delete the rest of the image. Now, very much like we've done in the past where we have inverted our selections, we are going to select, invert selection. You can see the dotted line going around the outside. And I'll just hit the backspace key or come up here to edit and clear. And now I have my first color of my color wheel selected and ready to go. Now, we can move and change the shape and size of this as much as we want, but you want to make sure that you do a select, deselect before doing so. I can use the Arrange tool, and in this particular layer, you'll notice again that this photo came into its own personal particular layer, that I can go ahead and make this as big or small as I want, and make sure it's arranged right here in the center and the top. And now we're just going to have to rinse and repeat. We're going to have to do this for all 12 of our photographs, where we put all 12 colors in color wheel order all the way around. I'll show you about one or two more, and then I will fast forward to the end where we can get rid of the circle and then turn this image in. So again, just as a repeat, we're going to come over here to our plus sign, go to image. We're going to select the next color, which I'm going to go with yellow orange, working my way around the color wheel that way. And again, the picture is going to come in super huge depending on what quality photograph you used. and I'll arrange it roughly where I think I want it to be, but of course we can move it if we need to. And again, note, it's always coming in its own brand new layer. I can turn off the layer with the yellow one I just put in, I can turn off the circle layer if I want, but this new layer of the yellow-orange color is, you want to make sure it's selected when doing the next step, which, as I said, is going to be using the marquee select, circle or the ellipse selection. Make sure that you are holding down the shift key so it doesn't get all wonky like this. Holding down the shift key forces it to be a perfect circle. And you want to make sure that most of the circle is selected for that particular color, and that it's roughly the same size. But again, we can change the size of this as need be. If I were to hit the backspace key now or go to edit clear now, it would delete the part that I want to keep. So remember, you want to make sure you do a select, invert selection, and then hit the backspace key or the edit clear. And now we have our second photo. I'll go ahead and deselect, and then I can use the arrange tool to make sure it's the same size roughly, and want to make sure it's kind of spaced out equally, because remember, we got to fit 12 of these like hands on a clock all the way around the outside of this image. All right, one more time, and then I will fast forward and wrap up this particular video, so you don't have to watch me do this all 12 times. Again, hit the plus sign, go to image, find your next color, and in this case it's going to be orange, which I got the side of my couch, which happens to be an orange couch. Zoom out, scale down, arrange, then grab your marquee select tool, again noting that this new picture is in its own brand new layer. Make sure you're in ellipse mode. Hold down the shift key when you're selecting so you don't get a wonky circle. Go to select, invert selection, and hit the backspace key or the clear key. Now I made a mistake here. I need to redo this because look, I definitely got a little bit out of the photo. And like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you are not outside of the image when you have this ellipse marquee selection. So that's a little better. Still have mostly this as orange. Select, invert, delete, and voila. We're a third of the way there. We've got yellow, yellow-orange, and orange now placed on our color wheel. I'm going to pause it now, and I will go ahead and fast forward and show you guys the rest of this once I'm done, as you guys just kind of rinse and repeat and do the rest of this image. All right, well, I have finally finished all 12 of my image, like I said, but there's a little more tweaking that I think I need to do. Notice that some of the spacing is a little off on some of these. Some of these are a little smaller, some of these are a little bigger, and that's fine because each of these is its own individual layer that we can go back and edit, but it's really easy to do when using the Arrange tool. With the Arrange tool, it actually is kind of a smart device that it can actually select any layer at a time that you want. So you won't have to worry about really your layers anymore of going back and changing those. So I'm just going to make a few tweaks of spacing these out and making sure they all look roughly the same size. Again, it's super nice that it all just does it automatically in the layers palette. But you want to make sure, like again, we're trying to look for as consistent as possible, and each of our images is in the center, like so. And other than that, guys, the only other thing you need to do is go to your layers palette, either delete or turn off your original circle, and this is the image that you are then going to file save and turn in as your color wheel assignment, as we have done with all of our other Pixlr lessons. And then turn this in to your Google document here at the end of class. Hope that all made sense, guys, and I will see you guys in class here at the end of class.